Capri, thank you so much for taking the time with me today. Theater is near and dear to my heart, so I'm thrilled to be chatting with you. When did you fall in love with theater?
I started dance when I was 3 years old, which many of us do in some way. We start some form of activity when we're 3. So I started there, and I evolved to kind of wanting to do a little bit more. And so theater was the obvious choice.
Right.
I think, if I remember right, my first show was maybe 6 or 7, probably The Nutcracker or something. And it was just this new world that you either really, really love it, or you hate to love it, or you hate it. And I fell in love. I think it's hard not to sometimes. And so from that early age, I just knew it had to be in my life somewhere. And I'm fortunate that it's still in my life. But yeah, I was lucky to find it at a young age.
So I want to talk about your experience as a choreographer, but before we get there, it's funny because I sort of take for granted that people understand what a theater community is like, and I realize that that's not necessarily the case. What was it about that group of people, that experience, that you just connected with?
I think just the open-mindedness that arts communities have, and it's almost like their arms are extended, and regardless of who you are, where you come from, your age, your background, there's always a chance to enter that community, and then you get to choose what you want to do within that community. It's just so open and inviting and encouraging, and I think it's just because we all have that within us as artists that we want that opportunity to do whatever we want to do.
Yes.
And I think that's what that community creates and what it gives, and then what you receive. And I think everybody wants to find that somewhere, and I found it in theater and I found it in dance, and that's where I kind of wanted to live and be. And that's what you fall in love with. You fall in love with the opportunity for your peers to accept you, and then for your peers to cheer you on and want to work with you, or you get asked to work with them. And I think it's just such a big family. And that's what kind of draws you in.
It's so true. Again, I take for granted that people just get that, but I realize that maybe not. So it really is sort of a different animal.
Yes.
So you mentioned that once you sort of got involved in dance and theater, that you knew that needed to be a part of your life.
Yes.
So how did you proceed from there? Did you continue to do community theater? Did you decide to study it? What were your next steps?
Yeah, I was fortunate. I had a great studio that I grew up in. It really developed me as an artist and as a dancer and as a person, and I just knew, okay, there's more out there, I gotta find it. So I actually went to Hope College up in Holland, Michigan, and I studied dance and theater there. I graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in Dance Performance Choreography, Theater, and Health Education. And then after school, I went out to California. I did a little bit out there because the industry is just so wide.
Yeah.
And then I found the art world of Fort Wayne, and I came here. And it's just, it's such a great experience to always know that you never have learned everything.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, I know that there are a lot of other things like that, but it's kind of exciting to be like, I don't know all of that. Let's keep going, let's keep working, let's keep, adding new people or experiencing new things. So yeah, I just knew that that's where I felt the most alive. Was in that space, working from beginning to end. And so I knew I had to figure out how to make that a part of my life.
I think this is the kind of city, arts-wise, where if you pursue opportunities, you're going to find them. Was that your experience? You started to kind of pursue artistic endeavors, and doors were open to you?
Yeah, it was. I came to Fort Wayne and I knew I had to find a studio to dance at, some form of teaching opportunity, and then figure out what the community theater, what the theater life in Fort Wayne was. Because again, I needed to have that in some aspect a part of my daily life.
Sure.
And so from there, I just started meeting people and learning about the different resources here. And it kind of just dominoed into where I'm at now, which is really exciting. But again, it goes back to Fort Wayne being open and being encouraging, because if that was not the case, then I wouldn't be here.
Sure.
So it's again so great that the arts community and the community as a whole has that persona and has that inviting, come, let's go, let's do this, let's work together.
Yeah.
So grateful for that.
Okay, I am not a dancer, so the idea of not only just dancing in general, but choreographing is very intimidating to me. So how do you go about choreographing an entire musical? Where do you start? What is your process like?
It's interesting because choreographing also sometimes intimidates me. Even though I've learned it, I've studied it, it's a profession of mine, because it's always a challenge, because you work with different people.
With different skill sets?
Yes, you work with different people with different experiences. I could go from working with dancers who have professional backgrounds, and then the next day I have to create something for someone who is a vocalist who knows how to move. Dance is sometimes scary, and it's one of those words, and you're like, dance, you're like, oh yeah, dance, that's fine, right. I can dance. But then you get into a studio, you get into a rehearsal process, and it's a lot. So my process is, and I've learned this from working with different groups, is I have to be open as a choreographer for my plans to change. I can have an idea, and I can have, I really want that to happen at some point. But when I come in, the people that I work with really influence my movement, my choreography, because they're the ones that are performing it. They're the ones that are being successful on stage with that movement. So I do like to start with just understanding who my cast is, and then working from there. I hardly ever really create choreography until I learn the people that are getting to perform my movement, because it affects them. I don't want to push something on them that doesn't work with their body, or doesn't work with the set, or doesn't work with what they're doing with their vocals. So from the beginning, it's really all about who's doing my movement, and then we go from there. And it's really just experimenting through the whole process and finding, oh, that really works, or oh, that didn't really work. Let's figure out how that works.
So tell me what it's like to choreograph when you yourself are in the show. I imagine that adds a whole new dynamic that has its own challenges.
Yes. I was fortunate that I was able to choreograph a show in its totality, and then I was placed into the cast. So I was very lucky that all of those things were put into place.
Yeah.
And I had trust in the cast, even though I'm stepping into a role and kind of taking off that choreographer hat, that you're good to go because we've been doing this for so long, and I have that trust built. But it is hard because you have to find a balance to your focus. If you're a cast member, you have a job, but then you also are the choreographer.
Right. There's this peripheral.
Yeah, you have a job too. So it's kind of sometimes putting blinders on, because your focus has to be in real time, what you're doing. And it's finding that balance. It's understanding that you can trust your other castmates, you can trust your director, you can trust your music director. That has to be there for you to have that fluidity and have that control, and understand that, okay, we're gonna keep going, and I'm gonna step out of my role, and I'm gonna work on choreography, and then I'm gonna step back in and step back out. And to be corny, it is a dance, because it's a lot. It really is.
Yeah. What is the hardest part in general? Obviously, that was kind of an isolated incident that was challenging in its own way, but when you are in a show or when you choreograph a show, what are the biggest challenges?
I think collaboration is probably the biggest challenge, and it can be your success or it can be your downfall. You have to have a great creative team, you have to have a great production team, and everybody has ideas and everybody has opinion, but it's finding that middle ground and having respect for those opinions and moving forward. Being really open and being encouraging, but also if you have an idea, it's just understanding where that art will take you, but knowing that there are other artists in the room too that maybe want to take it somewhere else.
Yeah.
So I think collaboration is always the hardest part. It's also very exciting, sometimes frustrating, but it's real. It's real life. It's working with real people and real artists. And that's what's kind of fun and exciting about art is it's an adrenaline rush, it's really fun, you get to create something from nothing, and then it's over, and you move on to the next thing.
Yeah, it is lightning in a bottle for sure.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Capri, you are a breath of fresh air. I'm so glad that you found your way here and that you continue to collaborate and seek out opportunities, because that's exactly what this city needs. So thank you for that, and thanks for sitting down with me.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.